Good evening. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. We'll ask all monitor members that aren't speaking to please hide your videos and mute. We will begin our meeting now. Welcome everyone to the Brooklyn Nycha Community Monitor Team meeting. We're pleased to introduce Bart Schwartz, the federal monitor, who will be with us this evening. And you are all of the representatives and residents from Brooklyn are our VIPs for this evening, but we have invited residents and interested leaders from all over the city to join us this evening. And we'd like to thank Eva Trimble from Nycha for joining us and Alika Samuel for joining us. And if anyone would like to make any remarks as we go throughout the evening, please feel free to do so. The way our agenda will work, we'll hear an opening welcome from Bart Schwartz, and we have two monitor team members who represent the Pest and Waste team, Charles Fax and Tamika Williams-Moore, who will give a brief update. And then we will open the floor to members of CCOP that might be here to make any welcoming remarks. And then we will open the floor to questions and answers. So the topic though for the evening goes beyond waste. Anything that you would like to share with the monitor related to any of the pillar areas, which are heat, elevators, pest, waste, safety, security issues aren't necessarily in the monitor agreement, but they're an important issue to the monitor. So if there are things related to that, please do share. As well as lead and mold issues. So those are the focus of the evening. Please share with us. Of course, if there are things as it relates to your individual unit, this evening isn't the time to share those concerns, but we do encourage you to call the CCC and report those issues. But tonight we want to hear about more systemic concerns, things that are related to your development as a whole, and questions and concerns you might have for the monitor in particular. So without any further ado, let's begin with Bart Schwartz, please.
Thank you, Asha. And I know we're all here virtually, and my colleagues know that I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and I wish we could all be in Brooklyn sitting around a table rather than doing this remotely. But I think the time is getting closer when we'll be able to have our in-person meetings. But just for those who don't know, I grew up near Brookdale Hospital, East 94th Street and Linden Boulevard, and lived there and was raised there. So I look forward to returning. I did last year during Family Day. I made sure I stopped by the old neighborhood, and try to do it again when we're back, moved away from these virtual meetings. So I'm gonna try to be brief because the real value of these meetings is your questions and the issues you want to raise. So I'll just say a few things and then we'll continue. First, I'd like to again welcome Alika Samuel, who, as you know, you may know, have been appointed as the head of Region 2 for HUD, which is the region that New York is in, having served on the city council and being a true professional in this area, and really looking forward to working with us. Alika has also been on our CAC when she was an elected official and took on assignments in that role. So thank you, and it's good to see you. You'll also hear today from Chuck Fax, one of the members of the monitor team. And it's an example in the area of pests and waste where we've worked together quite well with Nycha and with the staff at Nycha. We've developed some intellectual property for inspecting the cleanliness of the areas. And Chuck, I hope you're going to talk about that a bit, because it's something that's very interesting. And I know that Nycha is interested in taking over that intellectual property and perhaps expanding it and working with it. So I'm sure Chuck will talk about that. Also, there's a mention of safety and security. I'll only say briefly that that's also part of the implementation plan, safety and security. So it's an issue that is very important to everyone. Chief Secreto, who joined Nycha, now it's several months ago already, is a well-respected law enforcement professional who comes out of the NYPD. And we've really developed a great working relationship with him. I always put in a little ad for him to get more resources, because I know he'd love to get more resources. He doesn't tell me to say this, but I say it every time. When there's somebody from Nycha's around, it would be great if we got more resources. We spend a lot of time with him, working with him, looking at issues, and that's been very, very helpful, I think. And some plans are in place, which I think will improve things even more. Another change at Nycha is a new chief operating officer, Daniel Sherrod, who likes to go by the name of Sherrod. We've gotten to know Sherrod because he's come over from Hud to work at Nycha. Besides being a pleasure to work with, he is really, really good at what he does. He has served as a receiver for HUD in some situations. He's had just about every job you could have at a public housing authority, where he started many, many years ago. He is working very hard to bring more discipline to the operations at Nycha. And of course, we're working closely with him as well to help him any way that we can. Then again, talking about security, you know that we have a number of field examiners who have begun, mostly former NYPD or other law enforcement, who spend a lot of time talking to you, talking to people in the field, trying to be helpful and trying to understand what the issues are. And that is continuing and has worked quite well. And we continue to provide information to the various agencies who need to know what we're seeing and finding. Certainly, we work with Nycha on those things. There was a hearing I think in 2019 at the City Council, which was about the question was about whether Nycha was preparing plans and for safety at the various developments, and whether they were inspecting it for that purpose. It was pretty clear that not a whole lot was done, but with Chief Secreto and also with our fellows who are in the field, men and women, there's more attention being paid to that now, and we know that's important to people. One of the, and I'll just end with really a sad note. One of the men who has been in the field from the beginning, mostly in Queens. So those of you in Brooklyn may not have met him, but Bobby Feliciano died on Sunday of natural causes. But it was sudden, and he is really, we really will miss him. Our condolences go out to his family. He's very committed to helping to get things done the right way at Nycha, and very committed to the residents of Nycha. So we will continue to follow his footsteps and get the work done, looking out for the residents. With that, Asha, I'll turn it back to you, because as I said, I'd like to really see the time spent responding to questions and hearing concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart. So next, I would like to turn to a brief update with regard to the work that the Pest and Waste team is working on. So I'll turn to you, Tamika Williams-Moore and Charles Fax, please. And then just so everyone is prepared, we will open up for questions. As I mentioned, Brooklyn residents are our VIPs. So if you'd like to raise a question or a concern, please indicate that you would like to speak and where you're from, and we'll move Brooklyn residents over first to present your questions to the monitor team. Okay, Chuck and Tamika, please. Chuck, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'm still tech challenged.
Okay, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Well, thank you, Asha and Edna, for inviting us to give residents a brief update on progress made by Nycha regarding pest remediation and waste management. With me tonight to talk about pests is my colleague Tamika Williams-Moore, who spends her time traveling throughout the city, observing pest conditions, inspections, and remediations. After Tamika brings us up to date on pests, I will talk about recent improvements in waste management at Nycha, and then Tamika and I will be pleased to take any questions you have. Tamika?
Thanks, Chuck. I would like to talk about 2 pest initiatives that we are currently working on. First, on February 23rd, 2022, in accordance with paragraph 35 of Exhibit B to the 2019 HUD agreement, Nycha began its second round of pest infestation index inspections. Now, some of you may have heard us kick around the term called MPII inspections. Those are the inspections that we're talking about here. All right, those inspections are to establish a baseline for pests throughout the city. Nycha plans to inspect 2,000 units by the end of April or possibly May, depending on the rate of access. So we know that currently Nycha has a 53% access rate. The inspectors will be looking for evidence of infestations of cockroaches, mice, bed bugs, rats in living rooms, bedrooms, closets, and bedrooms alike. If an infestation is observed during the inspection, a pest control work order will be created at that time. Residents who have been notified of the units will be expected to be home and to allow access into their units so that the inspections can be done in an orderly manner. If you are not home or refuse entry, please reschedule when contacted by the inspectors. Residents will continue to receive letters and phone calls prior to the inspection date. Once the data is collected and analyzed and compared to the subsequent inspections in the following years, Nycha will be able to determine the level of pest infestation throughout Nycha's portfolio. And as importantly, whether the remediation and exclusion work being done now is reducing the level of pest infestation throughout Nycha. Okay, the second initiative that I would like to talk about is the Resident Ambassador Program. So the monitor is developing a Resident Ambassador Program to be modeled in the Lower East Side for 6 months. This program is seeking funding from district electeds in the Lower East Side and also various city initiatives. The goal of the Resident Ambassador Program is to ensure that residents get actual notification of when inspections and remediations are going to take place in their units. And as importantly, to guide the residents in preparing their unit for remediation so that the exterminators can do a thorough job. Resident ambassadors will be residents themselves who will be trained to perform their jobs and will receive compensation in one form or another. The resident ambassadors will call the resident. They will visit their apartment prior to the scheduled appointment to assist with preparing the unit for remediation by removing items from the kitchen or furniture belongings away from the walls. 2, counseling on best practices and maintaining a clean apartment that is pest-free. We are very excited about the potential for this program. And once we've secured financing, we will begin to pilot in short order. Thank you. Chuck?
Thanks, Tamika. Waste management is governed by paragraph 45 in Exhibit B to the 2019 HUD agreement. Paragraph 45 requires that the developments be maintained in a clean condition, such that garbage and waste are daily collected, stored securely, and properly removed from the premises. Our job as the monitor is to assess whether this is being done. In that regard, there are 4 relatively recent noteworthy developments concerning waste management. First, in collaboration with Al Ferguson, Vice President of Waste Management and Pest Control, we developed an electronic scorecard to grade each development on waste conditions in the common grounds and throughout the buildings in that development. This is what Bart referred to a few minutes ago, the intellectual property. We call the scorecard WAMA, short for Waste Management Measurement App. In April, we will complete a 6-month pilot in which inspectors on our team have been inspecting waste conditions at 40 developments, including the common grounds and interiors, elevators, hallways, stairwells, rooftops, basements, basically everything except the interiors of the units themselves. Our inspectors grade each component from 1 to 5, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Photos are taken and uploaded into the app along with grades and comments. The data is transmitted to the waste department, which then works with the development if there are problems and tries to resolve them. And we also collect the data in our central database to see if there are any noticeable trends. In that regard, I am pleased to report that we are seeing improvement in waste conditions system-wide. This does not mean that there are still not a number of problematic developments, which we are working on, but we are pleased with the progress we've seen so far. At the conclusion of the pilot, we intend to broaden the program, and eventually we hope it will cover every development in the city. Second, Nycha is purchasing modern heavy equipment for collecting and containing waste, exterior auger compactors, large bulk containers, and the like, and expanding a number of development waste yards to accommodate this equipment and help process more waste. This progress enables Nycha to use a greater number of free dump bulk tickets issued by the Department of Sanitation. So Nycha can dispose of a greater amount of waste from Nycha developments than ever before, especially bulk waste, which forms a significant part of the daily load of waste collected throughout the portfolio. Third, Nycha has expanded its recycling initiative, focusing first on a very successful pilot in Staten Island, such that by March 1, 2022, over 14,000 bags of recycling had been collected there. This program will also be expanded citywide. In that conjunction, I also want to note the Mattress recycling program at 46 consolidations, which is also very successful. I won't go into the details here, but those of you whose developments are part of this program know how effective it is. Nycha hopes to expand this program to incorporate its entire portfolio. Fourth, Nycha has purchased its own rear loader garbage trucks as part of a pilot program in Brooklyn, whereby Nycha is augmenting sanitation's 3-day collection of curbside garbage with another 3 days of collection at the same sites, for total collections of 6 days a week, doubling the amount of collections at these developments. This program is hugely successful, as it removes garbage bags from the street almost as soon as they are deposited there for collection, preventing them from being torn open with waste being scattered. All of these initiatives are helping to improve waste conditions throughout the Nycha portfolio. But at the end of the day, the most important element in maintaining clean developments is you, the residents. Simple habits like picking up after your dog, throwing trash bags down the chutes and not out the window, placing trash bags in their designated depositories rather than dumping them outside the lobby or on the ground, and not littering sidewalks. These habits alone make a huge difference in the quality of the grounds and buildings and the quality of life in Nycha developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck and Tamika, for giving that update. And one of the things we wanted to discuss tonight with all of you is whether or not these initiatives really are working. You know, a lot of things sound good on paper or in theory, or even what we hear from Nycha officials, but we're relying on you, the residents, to tell us what you're seeing on the grounds in your developments and what's working and what's not working and your thoughts for improvement. So thank you for that update. And before we open up for questions, I'd like to formally introduce our new HUD Regional Administrator, Alika Samuel, who was formerly City Council member representing Brooklyn. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. And will you please make some remarks?
Thank you so much, Asha, and good evening, everyone. I would not at all, if you all know me by now, you know that I will not stand in your way of being able to speak your voice. And so I just wanted to quickly just say good evening and just bring greetings on behalf of HUD. I was appointed to the position officially in January. And so now I do serve as the regional administrator representing Region 2, which is the state of New York and the state of New Jersey. Our secretary, Marsha Fudge, was in New York in December and had an opportunity to visit Nycha developments. And subsequent to that meeting, she's had roundtables with CCOP and some of the members, and we just had a meeting with the secretary just about 2 weeks ago. And so I am pleased and honored to now serve in this position and putting on a different hat, because I was a member as a New York City Council member, a member of the CAC. And so now I will be taking notes and making sure that we are doing our part in HUD to follow up. And so with that, I just wanted again to bring greetings on behalf of HUD and greetings on behalf of our Secretary Marsha Fudge. And I look forward to working with you again.
Thank you. We're pleased to be able to work with you again in this new capacity. So with that, Floretta, can you please tell me who would like to open up with the first question or comment?
I'm sure we're going to start with Leola Wayne, and following her is Valerie Bell.
Thank you. Ms. Wayne, please proceed.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Leola Wayne. I am from James A. Bland Resident Association, and I'm just happy to be on so I can learn some more information to help our development move forward. And thank you for allowing me to be part of the meeting.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You know, if I might add it in that regard, Chuck, when we have further discussion about some of the things you talked about, you might identify which developments are in the pilot and where there's improvement, because there may be people on the call saying, well, I don't see a change in my development, and it may be they're not in the program. And we could talk about how the program might be expanded eventually.
Okay, there are 40 developments in the program. I'm familiar with some of them on Staten Island.
Well, you do your best.
Okay. All right, I hope that's good enough.
Okay, thank you. Loretta, who's next, please?
Valerie Bell.
Ms. Bell, please unmute and proceed.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Miss Bell from Wyckoff Garden Resident Association in Brooklyn.
Good evening, Ms. Bell.
Good evening. I believe we are a part of that pilot program. And well, the bins have not been installed as of yet, but they're supposed to be coming. So I hope to see a change in that. Because we do have a lot of rodents, and it's just.
What I'm sorry, what development are you in?
Wyckoff Gardens.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes, we're a part of the program, the program, right?
Well, there are several pilots going on. I think that Wyckoff is
One of the,
is involved in the in one of the other pilots. I don't think that Wyckoff is in the WAMA pilot, but I know about conditions there, and I think they are improving. You were part of the AWS pilot, I believe.
yes,
Yes, and that is that pilot is making a distinct difference. It began in Brook Ellen, and there was a huge change noticed there, and now it's going forward in Wyckoff and one other development, and I think it's pretty successful. So I think you're
Yes.
going to see improvement there in waste
Yes.
conditions. Yes.
yes, and thank you.
Well, Ms. Bell, keep us posted, you know, as these pilots roll out, let us know, you know, what you're seeing and if it really is improving or not.
Will do.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
great.
Thank you.
Ms. Hudson, who's next, please? Is it Ms. McFadden?
That's correct. Barbara McFadden.
Okay, please proceed. Please unmute and proceed.
Barbara, are you there? If you could unmute.
Okay, we're having some trouble hearing Ms. McFadden. We'll move on, please, to Carol Barnes, and then we'll circle back.
Great.
Can you hear me? Carol
Yes,
Barnes?
we can hear you. Please proceed.
Houses. We just recently became part of the Red Pack program. We did have a large infestation problem with the rodents. We have seen some improvement, but what we're really worried about is that how can they start repairing, redoing the apartments and the whole development, and the rodent problem is not taken care of? Because what a lot of engineers are telling me is that with the severe rodent problem, once they come out and they're starting construction next month, these rodents will get into the walls and we'll be in a lot of trouble. So, I mean.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because a lot of times with construction projects, more rodents come out. Can you speak to that, Chuck?
I frankly am not familiar with what happens once a building is actually, or a development is actually converted to RAD and PACT. I mean, once the process has occurred, I don't know what the protocols are, but in general, in terms of the problem that you're describing, which is construction going on and what do you do about the rats, the answer is that you have a sort of a massive blitz that occurs on an ongoing basis, where caretakers are there identifying rat burrows, baiting the burrows, cleaning out the dead rats, and closing the burrows, and doing that on an ongoing intensive basis. And when that's done effectively, the rat population will be reduced. If you're talking about mice indoors, again, the same protocol applies, and that is that intensive techniques for mouse remediation have to be used on an ongoing basis. And if they are, the mice and the rats will go elsewhere. They go to the place of least resistance. And if there is more food, more sources of energy accessible in other areas, other streets, other buildings, that's where they'll go. And I don't think just because you're going to see construction that you're necessarily going to see an increase in rodents. If the work is being done properly, there ought to be a decrease.
I could add a
Thank you.
little something to that. First of all, RAD and PACT, once the conversion takes place, it's no longer under the monitor's jurisdiction, but we are up until the conversion. But I know that it's standard practice in the contracts that the capital program signs for construction, it's the responsibility of the people doing the construction work to make sure that the site is being treated and cleaned in the way that it should be, to try to reduce the number of rats and prevent that. So we knowing who's responsible for it, which is the construction company, the pressure has to be put by the RAD and PACT owners on those construction companies to do their job. Nycha is doing that in cases where it's not a RAD or PACT, and Nycha still controls it with the monitor and making sure that the construction companies do what they're supposed to do. Because construction always causes this problem in all communities, but Chuck is right. If you prepared for it, you can control it.
Thank you, Bart, and thank you, Chuck. Before we move on, we'd like to go back to Ms. McFadden, please. Ms. McFadden, if you could please unmute. Ms. McFadden, we can't hear you. Okay, seems like we're still having some technical difficulties. I did want to take a moment to introduce some more of the team leaders that are on the call today. We have Deputy Monitor Dan, who is also the team leader for elevators and heat. Ms. McFadden has unmuted, so I will turn to her now.
To plan everything, I see. And she can put his name on the flyer.
Ms. McFadden, we're getting a bit of an echo. Can you speak, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Okay. I'm trying my best to hear you guys. I don't know what it is. I can't. I'm watching the stream and I'm seeing you, but you guys can hear me, but I can't really hear you too clear. But it's hard for me to really participate because you guys have important stuff to share and I can't hear too good. I don't know if it's low or if it's my phone. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, Ms. McFadden, maybe if you can turn the volume up on your device, and then we are also doing some closed captioning. I wonder if we can get the words on the screen as well. They're not completely accurate, but hopefully that can help with anyone who's having some problems with the audios.
Okay, I turned it up. Okay, I've turned it up. It's a little better, not much. Okay. Did you guys have a question for me, or you just was responding because I unmuted?
We were responding because you unmuted. I wasn't sure if you had a question for us beyond the technical concerns.
No, I have a question, but I want to ask like a little later.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That is. Thank you so much, Ms. McFadden.
You're welcome.
Okay. And I wanted to introduce you, as I mentioned, to Dan Burnell, our Deputy Monitor, who's on the line.
Good evening, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, Dan. And we have Fred Baldino. As you heard from Bart Schwartz, we have a really tremendous team that goes throughout the city to all of the developments on a daily basis to see what the conditions are, to talk to staff, to talk to residents, and to take pictures, et cetera, to report back for the monitor team and to update Nycha on the findings in the field. So they're a tremendous team that you should know is out and working on behalf of the monitor regularly. Thank you for being with us, Fred.
All right, good evening all.
And then we have Dennis Walsh, who represents the monitor team, and his focused areas are on lead and mold issues. Thank you for joining us, Dennis. And we have Joe Jaffe on, who is a leader on the monitor team, who has been working very closely with building out the compliance departments. And thank you for joining us, Joe. And I also see Miss Edna Wells Handy People, who is a leader on the resident and community engagement piece for on behalf of the monitor. Thank you, Edna. And Edna also helps me put these meetings together so that we can hear from you, the residents throughout the city. So, and then we have our fearless leaders, Patricia Gambali and Floretta Hudson, who do all of the behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, and everything else to keep this going. So thank you and applause. And then we have team, the resident engagement team from the monitor, who have been calling all of you. You may have heard from Sharon or Chase or Floretta or Patricia or Tracy. We've been trying to call all of the resident leaders in Brooklyn, and then when we can, to get to resident leaders in other boroughs as well. So thank you all to the members of the monitor team who are on the line. And then of course we have our Spanish language interpreter, Lindsay Lopez. If anyone prefers to be in the Spanish language room, please follow the prompts. The little global button will get you there. So next, Floretta, can you please tell us who's up? And before we call on the next person, I will turn to Bart Schwartz, please.
Thanks. I've learned how to raise my hand on this, so I'm glad to see it works. I just thought, we may be assuming that everyone understands how we've organized the monitorship, and I think it would be helpful. It also may be helpful in getting the right person to answer the questions. But what we've done is pretty much try to organize the same way as the HUD agreement is organized, where there are what we're calling pillars. There are certain areas that have precise, detailed commitments made by Nycha and the city. Some of it relates to money, some of it relates to accomplishments, a lot of metrics in there to be able to try to measure the success or not success of the things that we're trying. So there's a mold pillar, there's a lead pillar, and so forth. Many of you know we've worked very hard to protect children under 6 in apartments with lead. Nycha has worked very hard to identify those apartments, has a special project to give those apartments a priority. And that's something done within the lead pillar within the agreement. Then there are some more general things which relate to the reorganization of Nycha. You've probably heard about the neighborhood plan. That's part of the reorganization where Nycha is making its best efforts, and even if I get this wrong, please correct me, but it's making its best efforts to bring as much of the skilled workers and expertise into the neighborhoods that have been created, so that there's less time spent traveling, where skilled workers traveling from far-flung developments. Instead, they're doing their jobs. So that you will see in your developments the same people for over and over again, instead of a new person showing up every time and hearing the excuse, "Oh, I can't help you because I'm new here." It's going to be that I think that excuse is going to start to go away. So there's a whole side of this that is organizational or reorganizational, and that will be dealing with accountability for the work that's done. That's where a lot of security and safety resides. And then alongside that are the pillars. So the way I tried to organize this at the beginning, and we've kept to it, is to work with these pillars. We've changed it a bit because we didn't want to have silos where things were falling through the cracks because they didn't quite fit one place or another. We try to keep our very much keep our minds on that. And we talked to Nycha about that. That has been less of a problem than I thought it would be, because even if you take, for example, ventilation, which has to do with mold. I know Dennis Walsh is on this call. He heads our mold pillar. He's done a tremendous job with respect to the ventilation fans that have been installed, and Nycha's done an equally tremendous job in getting it. It's not the original schedule, but it's a very good schedule to get all of those fans installed, or make sure that the ones that are there are operating properly, since the failure of ventilation is a big cause of the mold problem. And then while doing that work, it was discovered that in some of the buildings, the so-called fire dampers, which are there to protect against fires jumping from apartment to apartment through the ductwork, that some fire dampers needed repair, some buildings needed to have them installed. That's not mentioned in the HUD agreement per se. It's all part of safety, of course. And so Nycha has now been working on the fire damper issue to make sure that the apartments are safer. So that something like that might have fallen through the cracks if we weren't all talking with each other and trying to keep our eye on the ball and making sure if we see an issue that we discuss it. So that's give you some sense of how it's organized, and that's why you'll see different people speaking. They have developed their own expertise in these areas. Plus, we have brought in experts from major construction companies, major engineering companies. When we were interviewed for this role, one of the requirements was that we develop a team of people with expertise so that HUD and the Southern District could see what that team would be. That's the team that's been working. And so we have their expertise in addition to the expertise of the individuals who are part of the guidepost team. And that's how we work. We go to a lot of meetings. We sit in on a lot of things to hear how things are going. And then we talk talk among ourselves. We talk with the Nycha folks, their experts, and try to work out the problems. Or as an example, as Chuck gave, not just work out the problems, but work out a plan, which seems to be working, and that could be transferred over to Nycha. Just thought that might be helpful to get a feel for how this operates, how we try to operate. Thank you, Asha.
Thank you for that explanation. Loretta, can you please let us know who's next?
Sure. Marie Navarro is next, and following her is Karen Leader.
Excellent. Please proceed, Ms. Navarro.
Hello, my name is Marie Navarro, TA President from Graves and Houses, and I would like to know, what are you doing about the rat infestation and mice in the development? Because sometimes we're going to throw out the garbage and it's in the compactor chute. You could literally see the mice running. And also you can see a lot of holes around the buildings next to the annex buildings. We're still under the resiliency program. And I want to know what's going to be done with all these rats that we didn't have before.
Tamika, do you want to address that? You're on mute.
Hi, Ms. Navarro. So currently Nycha has their central pest control unit that are going out treating the grounds. And Nycha also has a pilot project. It is the rat slab project, where they're putting down a slate of concrete to discourage the rodents or the rats from burrowing into the ground and making more burrows. So those are the two measures that I know that Nycha is doing right now. I don't have anything else aside from those two projects. I'm not sure. Which development are you in, Ms. Navarro? I'm sorry.
Graves in O'Dwyer, but I'm in Graves in houses in Coney Island.
I spend a lot of time in Coney Island, and I think we're particularly sensitive to the problematic conditions there, initially caused by Sandy. There's a tremendous amount of construction work going on in the Coney Island developments, and generally they are not in very good shape. I think Nycha is going to be, at least the pest and waste folks are going to be devoting a good deal more attention to Coney Island going forward. The problem with rodents is a serious one, as you mentioned. There are some fairly sophisticated techniques for dealing with rodents. Part of what's called the IPM or Integrated Pest Management, and Nycha has adopted those techniques across the board and is using them for all of its remediations. Our expert entomologists, our pest experts, tell us that from their observations, they think that that the Nycha exterminators are doing a better job now today than they were before the advent of IPM and before their intensive training. The fact that they're doing a better job, of course, does not necessarily translate into better results, because results are dependent on a lot of variables that go beyond the quality of the work being done. It also has to do with the quality of the buildings themselves and with the ambient conditions in the atmosphere and in the neighborhood. But rest assured that Al Ferguson, who's the Vice President of Pest Control and Waste Management, is very, very conscious of the problems on Coney Island and Gravesend and Sheepshead Bay and the Rockaways.
There's another element which was actually it's not a good story. It was very frustrating for us. Nycha was supposed to install 8,000 door sweeps, and those door sweeps very simply were to be put on doors facing the outside, so and they prevent pests from getting in under the door. And it's kind of it's a very simple device that is easily attached to the bottom of the door. And Nycha did 8,000 of them, and almost half of them were done improperly. And Nycha had to redo that. They still didn't get it right. Finally, the third time they got it right, so that those door sweeps are in place. But we spent a lot of time and wrote up a report for HUD, Southern District, and for Nycha on our views of why something that was supposed to be simple and easy to do and easy to measure had to be done 3 times before they could get it right. And as Chuck will tell you, and as others observed, it was primarily a failure of management, not training the people how to do it, not inspecting the work that was being done. And in the end, it got done the right way. But originally, frankly, Nycha wanted to check the box, 8,000 done. We sent the experts out, about half of them improperly done. So they didn't get a chance to check the box until everything was properly done. But those are effective. It's a relatively simple but effective method. I don't know if it's at Grayson houses. I don't have a list of which developments. But if you don't have door sweeps there, you should let us know. And maybe Chuck, you could follow up on that to see if they have them.
Well, I can certainly check at Gravesend, but I can tell you, Bart, that having completed the 8,000 door sweeps, Nycha Pest Control is now embarked upon doing more, and they are doing them properly. So when they encounter a building or a development that needs door sweeps, they issue work orders and they do the work as part of their routine work, which they were not doing before the pilot program, for the 8,000 program. So I think progress is now being made in that arena, and
That's
I think
good to hear.
yeah.
I just wanted to add one thing. Ms. Navarro, Gravesend is in our WAMA project. So Gravesend is receiving extra inspections as a result. Okay. And if those projects there that are being conducted at Gravesend, if they're CPD projects, there is a contractual obligation for the contractors to remediate the grounds for pest control. Also, what I would suggest as well is if you see any openings like grates missing on windows at the base of the building, pipes missing caps that have entryway into the building, I would suggest that you would go ahead and report those things to Nycha as well, to stop the pests from getting into the development.
And Fred Baldino is on our call, and he's in charge of our inspection team that goes out and issues the WAMA reports. So Fred can tell those inspectors who are going to Gravesend to look to see if there's a door sweep issue. You know, it's very easy to tell whether a door needs a door sweep, and that will be reported in WAMA. And if the need exists, then a work order will be generated.
The Gravesend is
Thank
a
you.
sandy project? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so so there's probably a lot going on there. Right.
I mean, that area.
Chuck, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to move on, please, to the Karen Leader, who's been patiently waiting to go next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Leader again. I'm the Secretary on Cooper Park Resident Council Executive Board. I have two questions. To control the growing rate population in many of our developments, would you consider implementing the now Mayor Adams bucket style rat trap? Also, as it relates to rodents coming through your walls, once perhaps a pipe in the wall needs to be serviced, what can be done to limit the process? Because first you have someone opening up the wall, then you have a ticket put in for someone to service, then you need another ticket for someone to close the wall. This gives opportunity for rodents to come into our apartments. So what can be done to shorten that time frame?
Okay.
Chuck, if I could start by responding to that, because first on the methodology for trying to prevent the rats and to remediate. There is a science to that. There are experts who do that and are applying that expertise at Nycha. That doesn't mean that other methods shouldn't be tried and tested, but that would primarily, frankly, be a Nycha decision to look into that and to see whether it's a program that deserves testing or not. If they did that, we would work with them certainly, but our primary focus is making sure that the proven science that works is being used, and there's a discipline to that process. As to the walls and the sequencing of jobs and the length of time, we spend a lot of time on that. That is one of the organizational issues that Nycha struggles with, and spends a lot of time trying to improve that. Often not with great success. It still takes a long time to get things done, but the neighborhood plan, one of the aspects of that, which is why we like that, is that there'll be an approach to fixing things all at once, rather than creating order after order, child orders for the parent orders, and all of that. So that's what their goal is. It's not an easy thing to change over, but one of the pilots has worked well, and that clearly is a problem that we're all focused on, as to the length of time it takes to sequence these jobs, so that so you could have a hole in your wall for months or years before the sequencing gets done. And there really is no excuse for that.
Eva Trimble from Nycha, did you want to weigh in, please?
Thank you, Asha. I just wanted to add on to what Bart was saying, that the sequencing of work orders and closing that time gap is actually the main goal of the work order reform project that he mentioned earlier, where we are decentralizing skilled trades so they have less travel time, but we're also changing the way the trades are sequenced, so you don't have to wait for one trade to finish before you schedule the next one. The goal is to get everyone scheduled at once, so you can make sure they're coming back to back and reduce the time that you have an issue in your wall left open. So we've launched so far in Queens, Staten Island, and the Bronx, and we'll be coming to Brooklyn in June. Right now, we're working on hiring up additional skilled trades, because in order to place the trades in the neighborhoods and at the developments, we need to hire a lot more. This is actually one of the biggest hiring plans that NYCHA has done in maybe the last 10 years. And so we are working now to hire up for Brooklyn, so everyone will be in place for a June launch. And then Manhattan will follow.
Launch, you said? June launch in Brooklyn?
Mm-hmm.
That's good to hear. Thank you for that update. Floretta, can you please tell us who's next?
Sure. I have Carolyn Ferguson on the line, and following her is Christina Chase. Carolyn, are you ready? And can you unmute, please?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Carolyn. I live in Gowanus Houses. My question is for Bart. I have two questions. The first question is, how many of these ventilation systems have been fixed thus far? Can't hear.
Yep, I'm going to pass that to Dennis, who knows the numbers. Dennis, where are you? There you are.
Right. You know, the NYCHA's been working on the project for a couple of years now, and happy to say that all of the new fans will be installed by some point in May. And the other part of the project is also cleaning the inside of the vents, so that in that regard, we've got over, I think, about 70,000 interior vents in bathrooms cleaned out to date. And of course, the fans are drawing the air up, which is necessary when you depend on mechanical ventilation. So I just want everyone to know what a wonderful job a particular unit in NYCHA has done. It's the Office of Mold Assessment and Remediation. And they've just been an excellent example of what can be done when you've got the right team working together.
Dennis, what's the approximate number of ventilation fans? I know
you know, it's in the many thousands. I don't have the latest number at the tip of my fingers, but it involves providing mechanical ventilation for 100,000 units. And obviously a fan can serve many ventilation ducts. But it's really just been a tremendous project in the many tens of thousands.
So Ms.
about
Ferguson,
10,000. It's about 10,000, I think, altogether.
well, Ms. Ferguson, we'll get you the numbers, because I know at the weekly reports that NYCHA's reporting out the numbers. And they ran into some unexpected problems. It turned out that some of the old installations included asbestos.
Right.
So special efforts had to be made to protect the residents and protect the workers. They overcame that. They set a schedule which they could not work in inclement weather. If it's raining, so forth, they couldn't work. So the schedule was understandably created so that we would add a day for each day that the weather prohibited them from working, and they kept to that schedule. So it was very well done.
And the precise number for the Office of Mold Assessment and Remediation is about 8,500 fans. So it's 10,000 all in, because the Capital Projects Division has a piece of that, but the lion's share of the fan work was done by Omar.
And some fans did not need to be replaced.
Right, they turned out to be modern direct drive fans that were inspected by engineers that Nycha hired and were deemed fit for purpose.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The second question is, a lot of these repair works that are being done, are these official Nycha employees, or are these contracted, contracted workers and vendors?
And maybe Eva may want to comment on this as well, but most of the work that is done in the apartments tends to be work done by employees. There is vendor work done in the apartments as well. And then for the larger projects, for example, ventilation, those are done by vendors with oversight from Nycha. There are issues there as well. One of the things I'd like to see, and I'm continuing to talk to Nycha about, is I really believe that if they paid the outside vendors on a more timely basis, they would get better vendors and they'd get better work. And I think that's one of the things where we can bring some improvements right to the apartments and directly to the developments. It's a continuing discussion that we have with Nycha. There are IT issues and other issues, but I'd love to see that problem solved so that more high quality vendors would want to work for Nycha.
I agree. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you for those questions. Who's up next, Loretta?
Christina Chase.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Wonderful. Well, I think that was a wonderful question that was actually asked prior. And so I'm curious as to if it's possible we can have a report with the statistical breakdown of how many employees actually are residents of Nycha and how many of that labor is contracted out to vendors. Is that possible, and by what date?
Well, Eva may have a better answer to that. I'm happy to ask Nycha for that information.
Okay, wonderful. So who would be the person to follow up with that?
Well, you can follow up with me.
Okay.
We can work together to get that information for you, Bart.
Great. That'd be helpful. We'll share that. We'll share that with you.
And then secondly, for those projects that are contracted out by vendors, for example, asbestos abatement, who is responsible for overseeing that those vendors are actually doing the procedures correctly? And then who do we go to if we see that it's being haphazardly done?
Well, I'll start, and then again, Eva may want to say more. Nycha is responsible for seeing to it that the work gets done, but the monitor has a role in that as well. We want to make sure that that oversight is being done effectively. So, for example, I know that in the mold area, Dennis does research every day on inspections. And we've reported, this is public, we've reported this before. Dennis and his team have rejected, I think, well over 600 inspections as not being adequate. So we keep the pressure on. Nycha wants it done the right way as well. They're paying and they want to get the value for what they pay for. But but I know that we try to stay on top of that. And when we find that the inspections are inadequate or there are other issues, we go right to Nycha and let them know.
Okay, so as residents, if we see a particular thing being being done haphazardly, do we report it to you?
There's more than one place you can report it. I'm happy to say. Certainly you could report it to us, but Nycha would want to know that as well. And they have a compliance department. They have environmental health and safety. They have quality assurance. The numbers are on the website. If you want to just go to our website, we would then tell Nycha about it to make sure. I think Eva wants to add something, so please go ahead, Eva.
Thank you. Well, you hit on it, but I wanted to reiterate that both compliance and environmental health and safety are very involved in the asbestos work. But absolutely, if anyone ever sees a vendor doing work that you think is improper or incomplete, and that goes the same, obviously for our employees, we do encourage you to report it to the compliance hotline. And you can do that through the CCC number or on our website under compliance. If you click on compliance, you get taken right away to the page where you can submit a compliance concern. And then our compliance department will follow up with that. So definitely please let us know if you're seeing anything improper from our vendors.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. For Floretta, can you please call on the next person?
Sure. So we have Fiona Bradham. I'm not sure if you're ready, Ms. Bradham, to speak, but I definitely wanted to give you an opportunity. And I know you're from Brooklyn. We're about to move into our other boroughs. Ms. Bradham.
Ms. Bradham.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. We can hear you.
Winona Braham here, Roosevelt House's president, Brooklyn West chairwoman, and also a CCOP member. My question is, on the follow-up, when you go in these apartments and you see what these apartments that's destroyed, and when you go to Nycha, what happens? Because I'm just gonna use my development in one. One of the monitor team came to look at the apartment. So in results, the bathroom sink got taken away, and that was months ago. Who follows that up? Who comes back and see what goes on? Who leaks up in the hallway? When y'all see this, when y'all go back to Nycha, what happens? Because we still see the same results. Nothing's don't change, but the fact that y'all came and wrote it down. And also my second is, I thought the monitor was for the residents. That you come and you see what the residences, what's happening in these residents' apartment. So if everything looked the same, then that means that somebody's not doing their job. And that's citywide. That's citywide. We got so many leaks, so many problems going on, but nobody don't see Nycha at the fault. They need to get up off the money and repair us, not push us into red and pat, thinking that's gonna be the solution. That's what they making us seem like, that's gonna be the solution for us in order for us to get a decent place to live. We should not be living like this at all. And help comes from everywhere, but we don't know where the help is going, what the help gonna do for us. I yield.
Well, I can't disagree with anything you're saying. We are there to try to help the residents. Our focus is on, as much as possible, on solutions that can work throughout the portfolio but when we get individual complaints, we do respond to them. And we do follow up. And if you complain to us about something, I assure you we will follow up on it. And we will get that complaint to the right people at Nycha. But our primary purpose is to try to help as many residents as possible, and that's why we look for things for systemic changes that we can do. You know, one thing that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. There's a lot of money that Nycha gets for or seeks for capital improvements, and that's very sensible and understandable. If you can improve the pipes, whatever it may be, you're going to have fewer problems. But in this period, when the conditions are so bad, Nycha still doesn't get very much more money for the non-capital needs. So it's terrific to hear that Nycha is bringing on more people, many of whom will not be capital. I assume they'll be, since they'll be doing the skilled labor work and other work. And that's where you'll see the differences more immediately when the money goes into that and more people go into that, then you'll see the differences individually more immediately. So it's a challenge to do both things at once, which is long-term and short-term. My focus is short-term because that's what the HUD agreement says. Get these things addressed short-term, measure the changes, and that's what we do. We also work with capital on the long-term issues, but our primary work, if you look at the HUD agreement, is on these short-term pillars to make sure that there's as much change as quickly as possible.
Bart, and if I can add, Ms. Bradham, if you would leave your information, not publicly in the chat or whatever, but I guess with Floretta or with Patricia, then we can follow up with you, and then I'll follow up probably with Eva, and we'll see what can be done with regard to your particular apartment.
No, it's not my apartment. It's in my development. I'll put my number there, my email address. I got one more question. And with these skilled trades, why not you don't look into their residents to see what we capable of doing? Because everybody ain't the same. Somebody got a little degree somewhere. Why we can't, as residents, be a part of the skilled trades? Because I'm pretty sure we know how to do that. I know how to wave a flag too. So, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to understand why we not coming into we're looking for the residents. Look into the residents, because that'll help a whole lot too.
Thank you, Ms. Bradham. That's another good question. I see Eva has raised her hand to respond from Nycha.
Thank you, Asha. I will say, I know someone else asked about our resident employee population, and we'll get the final number, but I think it's about 30% of our employees who are also residents. But we absolutely encourage residents to apply for all of our job postings. We are tied to New York City civil service, so we do have to work through the civil service structure for all of our hiring, including the skilled trades. But we absolutely encourage all of our residents to apply. We work through our resident engagement team to promote those postings, as well as, you know, early on in the civil service when there are exams being given by the city for those tests. We publicize that for our residents so that they are aware of. If you're not getting any of those, we can point you to where to find all that information.
Thank you. Floretta, can you tell us who's next?
Thank you. So we have Bridget Marachilian. And following her is going to be Crystal Glover, who's been very patient. Thank you.
Thank you both for patiently waiting. Bridget, please.
Okay, I'm trying to unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, great. Good evening. I just want to thank everyone. All the information and the peer-up program sounds great. Give you a little background. I'm on both spectrums. I'm a director of property management, and I'm also the TA president here in here in Queens for the Bland. As a person who has been on both sides, I've worked with all city agencies, with HUD, politicians, the whole 9 yards as a director of property manager. But as a resident here in Nycha, and I've also taken over Nycha and done conversions into red. So I also know Nycha buildings inside out. Now, the problem that we're having here in Queens are your crawl spaces and your waistline pipes in the basement, okay? We have waistline pipes that are leaking. We have employees that don't want to go into the crawl spaces because they're filled with feces. And because of the feces, now it turns into flies. We have an infestation of flies, infestation of mosquitoes. Now, when the heat goes down, the employees do not want to go into the crawl spaces because the crawl spaces are filled with feces, and I do not blame them. When I put in tickets to the management office because I know the policies and protocol, there's just a whole bunch of open tickets and nothing gets done. I have called the environmental, I have called all the departments and follow proper procedures and protocol. Now, that's just one example. In reference to the rodents and reference to the mice, okay, yes, there is a pest program, but unless we cover up the holes, right? Like you said, the burrows, we have to find the burrows, we have to cover the burrows inside the buildings. Guess what? We have to cover up the holes inside the apartments. If we don't do that, we're still gonna have mice and rodents all over the place. So all these plans could be great, but we need to start with the bare minimum, right? In order to have a solution to a problem, we start with the bare minimum. It's real estate 101, very simple. Now, the problem is one of the other residents' touch bases is that when we call Nycha and we put all these tickets, all of a sudden, nobody's responding to the tickets. And now it continues. The same thing. My husband lived here for I don't know how long. I lived here for 7 years. I had mold in my closet in my bathroom. I kept on telling him there's a crack in the waistline behind the toilet. Nobody listened. They were plastering over the mold. Ridiculous. Guess what? In October, maybe in November, they broke the wall. Guess what? There was a crack in the waistline. And they were like, oh my God, your wife was right. I've only been doing this for 30 years. I live real estate and management. This is all I do. So with that said, and I had to go through the borough to get all of this fixed. Now, I know there's a definite problem here in this building with the waistline. It has been ignored, and we're getting tired of getting bitten by mosquitoes. Kids are getting bitten. Until that basement is cleared, we're talking about waistline and pest control. What are we doing? Who do I contact? I've done everything. I've contacted the environmental people. And the problem is, and I think Bart said this, is that Nycha with the tickets, there's a problem there. So of course, now there has to be a program for those tickets, because unless that department is fixed, all these other programs, it's not gonna work out. We're gonna continue to work in a circle. A vicious circle that's never going to get resolved. There's leaks, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So with that said, I apologize. I know it's a lot. So
No, you make really good points. You make really good points. Eva's gonna respond. Eva?
I just want to say that I took some notes on what you were saying, and I will follow up with you separately after tonight to go back through your issues for the development. And I want to flag these to the neighborhood planners. Since you are in Queens, you are in our new work order reform program. So I want to make sure we are coordinating through the program to make sure the neighborhood planner is aware of these issues and we can address the basement. Waistline's harder, but let's talk separately, and I want to help resolve these issues.
I appreciate that, Eva. And also I would like to also touch in reference to security. I know we're not talking about security, but that's a heavy thing. I'm very good in cameras and security. I don't understand why we spend so much money on cameras and we're not utilizing it to the fullest of its ability. We have cameras, there's a reason. I've cleaned up buildings in Brooklyn like there's no business. But unless we have cameras, we cannot work with the police. Then we go to Nycha and what they say, oh, we have no access to the camera. What do you mean you have no access? Didn't I saw it in HUD? Didn't you spend like $100,000 on cameras and you're going to tell us, the residents, that we have no access? That is not acceptable because I know how it works. I look at my cameras. I make the residents accountable if they're the ones that are damaging the buildings. So yes, you know what? It's a two-way street, right? We can help you, but please help us too. If we have the tools, this is what I'm saying. There are certain tools that are already in place that we're not utilizing it to the fullest ability that can help us, the residents, clean up these buildings, clean up the drugs, clean up the music. But the management and Nycha got to work with us, not tell us, hey, we have no access to the camera. Now we know that's a lie. So that's another subject that we have to work together. I'm trying to bridge the gap that we have between residents, Nycha, and the community. So we have to figure out, because information is key, but if we have the tools and we're not utilizing, then it doesn't mean anything.
Absolutely right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
There is access to the cameras, you're right. It's just that somebody doesn't want to look.
I know that because I look at my cameras 24/7. I'm a nut, but that's my job, right? That's what I do as a manager. And I can't expect everyone to do that. But if that's part of your job and you're not doing it, then maybe we should implement it.
Right, exactly. Thank you so much for your important points. And now patiently waiting, Ms. Crystal Glover.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I have a lot to say. First of all, Mr. Joffrey, can you take this ticket number down? 871-663-037. The building is 225 East 99th Street, apartment 1G. I promised my friend that lives there, her husband is a very hardworking man, the father of 5 kids. They haven't had hot water in months. And no, I'm not the TA president, but I am back on the board. And I know the power of a tenant association. I'm a former TA president. My mama was a TA president. And that's the power. I will say also that this meeting, this federal monitor meeting, I am so impressed with Brooklyn. All you Brooklyn TA presidents that came out, y'all got the power. You just haven't been instructed and directed. I'm telling you, you got the power. I'm here today. You come to this meeting, this is being recorded. So that means all the questions that you put in the chat, Bart and his people have to read it and they have to get back to you out of respect to you as resident council presidents and liaisons. That's number 2. Number 3, here in Manhattan, so I'm really impressed tonight. I'm not a Brooklynite. I love Brooklyn because those people are hardworking people out in Brooklyn, and they get dogged, man. Brooklyn gets dogged. So I'm hoping that Bart and HUD will live up to their responsibility. And Joffrey, if you're still there, please take this woman's information. She needs some hot water. The last thing,
Mr. Glover, give me the name of the building. What's the address of the building again for the hot water?
Yes, how you doing, sir? You
How
took
are you?
care of me, Don Green. The compliance unit is very effective. We residents, we got to realize we got to put the tickets in when our man. Listen, there's a lot I can say. Y'all having this 1 hour and 30 minutes. Come on now, Bart. Y'all got to do better. What you want, sir?
The building.
The building?
Yeah, the building.
It's building 5, and that's 225 East 99th Street and 2nd Avenue. She lives apartment 1G. Her name is Maribel. She refused to give me her phone number. That's okay, because with all the crime and everything, people are scared. But I promised her I was going to put this information. Her husband can't even take a hot shower in the morning to go to work.
Okay.
And I'm gonna look forward, I'm gonna ask her, did you get back to her?
Okay.
Last thing yes, sir. Thank you for this time. I wanna also say that same building, it's like the domino effect at Washington Houses. I'm at Washington Houses. And one building's compacted closes for months. You come to these meetings, they open it up the next day, and then the next building closes up. Well, my building, our compactor has been broke for months. We're in isolation here. What I mean by isolation is sometimes a resident's only means of activity is when they walk from their apartment to the compactor. You got some people that's as far as they go all day. And by you isolating us, by sealing our compactors in Washington Houses, particularly building 225, that's building 5, our compactors are sealed. And what's happening is we have to bring our garbage downstairs like they did in the 70s, the tenements. Listen very carefully. Our manager, I don't know what's going on with her, Miss Swink. I spoke to her when she first got here in May. Our TA had a meeting with her in September. She was very respectful. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. We just had a TA meeting. Manager claimed that she couldn't reach her, et cetera, and all that kind of thing there. But nevertheless, she's like ghost. I don't know what's going on. But 225's compactors are sealed. We have to bring our garbage downstairs. And by me complaining to the superintendent, I actually had a meeting with him. Because, you know, I may not be the president, but I was the president before. And I know the power I got. I had a meeting with him. He promised me the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I told him, you got folks cleaning all day at 225 East 99th Street and 2nd Avenue. They're cleaning all day, but at night, when folks come in from work and what have you, and bring their garbage downstairs, and don't tell me the bags are too big, and don't tell me, because I've gone floor to floor, I haven't seen one bag left under the carpet. So we are civilized here in this building. Number 2, so you clean all day, and then you feed the rats all night. Last point. The building smells like there's dead bodies in the basement. And if Monica Morales from Pix 11, she came in one time for me one time before about our mailboxes, but she didn't air it, which probably was a smart thing, because then the thieves would have been hitting everybody's mailbox. But if I could hit somebody in the media, I would have them come here. Our basement smells like there's dead bodies down there. We come in the building, so we feed the rats all night, right? We feeding the rats all night. It's not rocket science. It ain't rocket science. You could put a man on the moon, okay? You're putting a federal monitor, do the job, because I can be on this thing all night talking. And anybody call me whatever you want to say. But I'm telling you, something needs to be done tonight. Every time I come, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Every time I come to this meeting with my bullets, the next day I get results, because that Don Green from the compliance unit, I put him on blast at a meeting in November. That next day, they was banging on my door. They fixed my shower. My water pressure is back to normal. I got a new wall up there. So all you TA presidents that's listening, utilize these people and learn. You want to call me? I don't care. Call me. Come find me, because we are the power. Anytime you could break a door today and tomorrow it's fixed, they got money. They right here now doing a $24 million infrastructure, whatever, that's supposed to be complete by the 2023 with the roofs. So don't tell me they don't have no money. And I'm looking for, after saying what I said, I'm gonna ask my neighbor. I appreciate you listening, because I know I'm speaking intelligently. I'm not just flying off the roof. I'm telling you points. These people, you federal monitors, y'all getting paid to do a job. Please do your job, because it's not hopeless. These buildings that got mega rats and all this kind. Remember when de Blasio, he used the raw ice. He spent $1 million for the raw ice project. And that building, 2010, which is one of the worst buildings in Washington Houses, you had goop, gobs, and rats, millions of them it looked like, for like 3 years. All of a sudden, when de Blasio did the raw ice piece, you can stand there for an hour. You won't see one rat. So why that can't happen in 225?
You make good points, Ms. Glover. Thank you so much. And perfect note to close our evening on because everyone for joining. We have so many of our resident leaders, our presidents, our board members, our interested members from the community in Brooklyn and all over the city. Really thank you for joining because we need to hear from you to know exactly what's going on in the developments, and it shouldn't take having to, be on the line with the monitors, get your word and get some help in your development. So we appreciate you all joining.
Sorry, Christina wanted my phone number. I want to give it to her before you close this meeting out. I want to tap her, chat her, and give her what she wanted. Matter of fact,
Don't give it publicly.
All right, I'm gonna give it to
We'll
her.
circle back with you to get
All right,
that.
but don't close the meeting out until I can give it to her. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I do want to be responsive. We have one person patiently waiting. Do we still have Diane Johnson with the final quick comment or question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have a comment for a concern of one of my residents who's a paraplegic, been here for a month, and he has no way of showering or taking a bath. Management knows about it, and he told me today they were telling him something about a contract. Now, when he got this apartment, they knew he was a paraplegic. This man has not taken a shower or a bath in a month's time. He lives in 18F at 393 Powell Street, Carter Woodson. And I wonder if somebody from the monitor can get on that, where this man, it becomes like a safety health problem. And he told me today that all they telling him about a contract. And he says he hasn't taken a shower or a bath in a month.
I promise you, we will be, we'll take care of that tomorrow.
So that's 18F and 393.
Powell Street in Brooklyn.
Yes, yes. And I just want to apologize for being late. As you see, probably a lot of TAs, we were at Van Dyke, the commissioner, police officer, at the police commissioner, and all, PSA 2, the entourage, we were there at a meeting, and it started at 6 also. So I just said, let me go home and try to get on this call because I had applied to be on it. So that was just the concern that I have. That's really an issue with this man. And he came to me again today, and I said, I promise we're going on a meeting, and I will let the federal monitor know.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, with that, we'll turn it back to you, Bart.
I don't have more to add. I think it's, I'm glad that we get specific information as well as the general information. We'll follow up on the specific. I haven't been following the chat because I'm trying to listen to what people are saying, but others are looking at the chat, and to the extent that there are requests in there, we will follow up on those as well. I promise you that.
Thank you. Bye.
And then I just want to say that we will have our Community Advisory Committee meeting, the CAC meeting, which is on Tuesday, April 12th. That's a closed meeting with members, but we will live stream that meeting on our YouTube channel. And then we'll have a meeting similar to this, where we will open it up to all residents of the city, but our VIPs that evening will be the Manhattan residents for our Manhattan community meeting, which is scheduled for Tuesday, May 10th. And that date might have to change, but we will keep you all posted. So please watch your email and the monitor's website for that. But we will definitely be having a May meeting. And then the monitor can always be reached at our website, nychamonitor.com, email monitor@nychamonitor.com. And we have our phone numbers. There's a toll-free number, 844-309-6080. Thank you all for being with us this evening. But again, you don't have to wait for a meeting to reach out to us. Please email, call, visit the website, and let us know what's going on in your developments. Of course, first call the CCC. We do monitor the calls and check for work orders and use that as a source of information as well. So thank you all. Please stay safe. Good evening.
Thank you. Good night.